No one ever knew her name. She was never written in the ledgers, nor carved into any plaque of remembrance. Her story survived only in the trembling voice of a woman who lived, a woman who said she once saw, in the dim lantern light of the third-class cabins, a mother holding her 2 children as the ship began to die. It was the night when the music stopped, and the hum of laughter in the upper decks faded into the sound of hurried footsteps, voices cracking with disbelief. But deep below, where the air smelled of iron and salt, where families slept in narrow bunks beside their suitcases and dreams, time seemed slower, not from ignorance, but from the stubborn faith that everything would still be all right. She was one of them, an immigrant, perhaps Irish or Italian, or maybe from somewhere further east, her accent softened by years of trying to belong. Her children were small, a boy with a chipped tooth, and a girl whose hair curled like question marks around her face. They had fallen asleep to the gentle rhythm of the ship, a rhythm that had promised safety until the cold began to rise. When the first rush of water came, it was almost beautiful, shimmering, silver, alive. The boy thought it looked like moonlight running down the stairs. The mother did not scream. She pulled them closer, her hands trembling only once before she steadied them again, wrapping the blanket tighter around their shoulders. "Tell us a story," the girl whispered, and so she did. Her voice, thin and calm, began weaving a tale, one about a kingdom under the sea, where brave children rode dolphins and found treasure in the coral. She spoke as the water crept higher, filling the gaps between her words. Each line was softer than the one before, each breath shallower, as if the story itself were fighting to stay above the surface. Somewhere above, the band still played, faint, ghost-like notes drifting down through the steel and wood. The mother closed her eyes for a moment, imagining it as part of her story music for her kingdom beneath the waves. The boy asked if the princess ever went home. She smiled. "She did," she said, brushing his wet hair from his forehead. "But home can be anywhere you feel loved." The ship groaned, plates cracked, wood splintered, voices turned to cries, but inside that tiny cabin, the air was almost still. The mother's calm wrapped around the children like another blanket, one that no cold could break. When the lights flickered and went out, she kissed them both, one on the temple, one on the cheek. "Close your eyes," she whispered. "It's just the sea telling us good night." Her heart raced as she felt the pull of the ship tilting, the water rising to her waist, then her chest. The girl clutched her sleeve. "Mama, I'm here," she said, her voice steady, her face still turned toward the children, even as the world tipped into chaos. "Mama's here." Those were her last words, spoken not with fear, but with grace, a soft vow to hold on until the very end. The witness who survived said she saw them moments before the final plunge, the mother sitting with both children in her arms, her head tilted as if she were listening to something only she could hear. When the Titanic broke apart, hundreds screamed into the night, but beneath the surface, the noise faded to stillness, the kind of silence that feels like prayer. In that stillness, she drifted with them, her body curled protectively around their small frames, her hair floating like a dark halo in the freezing blue. 3 shapes descending into eternity, bound by a warmth that even the Atlantic could not steal. Years later, divers would find remnants of toys, a comb, a child's shoe. No one could say who they belonged to, but sometimes, when they shone their lights into the corridors of rust and coral, they thought they saw something like an embrace, still frozen there, 2 small forms, and the faint suggestion of a woman's arm curved gently around them. Maybe it was just the play of shadows, maybe not. Some say that on calm nights, when the sea is glass and the stars scatter across the water like spilled salt, you can hear something not a scream, not a cry, but a lullaby. It rises faintly from the deep, carried by the tide, a mother's hum echoing through time. It's the sound of comfort, of warmth, of love refusing to drown. There are no portraits of her, no diary to tell us where she came from or what her dreams were. Perhaps she once hoped for a small house with a garden, a place where her children could run barefoot in the Sunday. Perhaps she kept letters folded in her pocket, or a photo worn soft at the edges, reminders of a world waiting on the other side of the ocean. All of it now scattered into the deep, fragments of an unfinished life, drifting through the current. But what remains is stronger than any relic. It is the memory of her courage, the quiet defiance of her love. While others fought for space on lifeboats, she fought for calm, for dignity, for the illusion of peace in her children's final moments. She gave them a story instead of panic, a fairy tale instead of fear. She gave them her heart, and she gave it without hesitation. History tends to remember names, captains, millionaires, engineers, but the soul of that night belongs to people like her, to the mothers who stayed, to the fathers who carried sleeping children through the flood, to the sisters who let go of hands so someone else could live. They are the invisible saints of the Atlantic, unmarked, unnamed, unforgettable. Every ship that crosses those waters sails over their graves. The waves themselves seem to remember, folding gently above the wreck, softening with each season, but never forgetting. When light filters down through the water, it touches the rusted decks like reverent fingers, as if the sea itself still kneels in mourning. Because love, once given, does not vanish. It lingers in salt, in silence, in the hush between two waves. And if you listen closely, when the ocean sighs, you might still hear her voice, calm, steadfast, infinite. Mama's here. Perhaps the sea carries her story still through shifting tides and restless storms, through the hum of passing ships and the quiet dreams of those who sail above. Maybe every mother who hums her child to sleep borrows, unknowingly, a note from that eternal song, the song of a woman who refused to let fear be her final gift. And maybe that's why, even now, when we look at the wreckage of Titanic, the rusted rails, the silent corridors, the broken china buried in sand, we feel something stirring that no history book can explain. Not horror, not pity, but reverence, a sense that somewhere in that darkness, love once burned so fiercely it outshone the stars for a moment, before sinking quietly into forever. No monument carries her name, no photograph captures her face, but somewhere, beneath 2 miles of water and a century of silence, there is a story still alive, a lullaby whispered through the currents, a mother's voice carried by the sea. Mama's here, always.